Welcome to Navigating Your Day on Tuesday, the 30th of January 2018. So 30 is a 3. Of course, 3 and 0 is 3, and 3 is a creative number. It's a number of our creative expression. It is the number that helps us to connect to what do we want to create and what strategy do we need to put in place in order to create that which we want. So 3 helps us to connect not only to what is it that we want, but how are we going to get it. It helps us in a very grounded way connect to our creativity. Safety energy lock number 3 is known as the door. It's the door that allows nourishing energy into the being and waste products out of the being. And it's located on the tip of the shoulder blade. So if you hang your hand over the top of your shoulder like this, where your fingers are resting, that's the tip of the shoulder blade close to the spine, and that's where safety energy lock number 3 is. And actually it's the originator of what we call the universal mediating harmonizing energy. I think I've got that wrong, but basically it's the mediator, okay? And it's on that level in Jinshin Jitsu that we start developing attitudes. And attitudes are emotions that we feel repeatedly. So just like beliefs are thoughts that we think repeatedly, so attitudes are emotions that we feel repeatedly. And the attitudes start on the level of the mediator, which starts at safety energy lock number 3, because we don't allow ourselves to align with the natural rhythms of the universe. We're not interested in universal law that doesn't suit us, for example. That doesn't work for us. We are all about being enlightened or peaceful or loving or connected, well, until it actually interferes with our value system. Then we're not so much about it. So universal laws are universal. They apply whether you like them or not. So when we can connect to the energy of the 3 and we know what those universal laws are, then we can move more smoothly through our lives. So that doesn't mean that there are not going to be, if you're on a river, it doesn't mean there are not going to be rapids, and it doesn't mean there's not going to be a waterfall, and it doesn't mean that you won't fall out of your boat necessarily, but it does enable you to negotiate and navigate that more smoothly so that you can get through the hard times and, of course, enjoy the wonderful, peaceful, tranquil parts of the river also. I don't know if I've completely mixed my metaphors there. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? So we've got the 3, which is a fire number. We've got the 1 from January, which is an air number. Fire and air together. 1 is also quite creative. 1 is about initiating. So once we've decided this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to be, or this is what I want to have, and this is how I'm going to going about getting it, then 1 says, yes, let's go. Let's get everyone on board that we need, and let's move, and this is just going to be amazing. So the downside of the 1, that's the upside of the 1. It's very, very encouraging. It's very inspiring, and it's your natural leader that steps up and says, this resonates with me, and this is what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, the 1 can sometimes have quite a one-sided view of things and sees only the wonderfulness. You know, oh, this business is going to fly. We're going to make so much money. We're going to get rich and famous. Maybe not. Maybe, but you're not going to get that without paying a price. And the 1 sometimes doesn't take the price into account. Luckily, we've got the 2 from 2018, and 2 brings the balance. 2 says that's all good and well that you want this, and that this is the strategy that you've got. And yes, those are all the wonderful things that you potentially could get, but have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? Now, some would say, oh, that's a bit of a downer. Well, actually, if you equilibrate situations and you already balance them in your mind, the universe doesn't have to send you equilibrating experiences because you've already done it. So when you master the situation, you don't need to be sent circumstances that force you to master the situation. So it may be a bit of a downer in the moment because it does break the infatuation and you don't have quite so much wonderful dopamine driving your addictions, but it does actually make for smoother sailing. 2 is a water number, so it helps to bring a bit of stability to this fire and this air. Some of us may find the fire and the air quite overwhelming, and we may find it quite intense. So we might be really driven to stick to deadlines. We might be driven to get things done. We might be driven to increase our output. The 2 reminds us that we need to take care of ourselves and we need to maintain a balance, even when, and especially when, we are pushing really hard to reach a particular goal. Whether that goal is a spiritual goal, or whether it's a mental goal, or whether it's an emotional goal, or whether it's a financial goal or a business goal, it doesn't matter. We have to maintain the balance. And so 2 brings that aspect of nurturing yourself and being kind to yourself while you are on the path to realizing whatever it is that you are after. The 2 also helps us realize that nothing is actually really ever missing. And so then, instead of being driven because we have to reach that goal, we can choose. We can go, okay, I realize nothing's ever missing. I have this in a different form, but I'd like to see what it's like in that form. And so that's what I'm going to go for. And that is the beginnings of mastering your life, of course. So today's hero is the 6. And 6 in the hero position is about harmony, remember? It's about balance. It's about appreciating the beauty. It's about taking time to indulge ourselves. And that doesn't mean necessarily indulgence in, I don't know, too much wine or too much coffee or too much chocolate or something that could be punishing. It could be in a magnificent meal. It could be a lovely time with friends. It could be something, a beautiful new scarf. It could be a sort of a consumer item, but it's more about recognizing the beauty and the harmony that already exists within you and attempting to maintain that balance. So that's 6. It's also a very creative number, and it is a fire number, so it will fuel the 3, but it does it in a more balanced, harmonious, less driven kind of way. The villain of today is the 9. So when we have the 9 in the villain position, remember, we are very, very stubborn. And this is very often where we cut off our nose to spite our face. We can have tantrums. We can behave like divas. We can get very, very, very dramatic. We can be very blunt. We can be very forthright. And our diplomacy can fly out the window. Luckily, the 6 in the hero position is very diplomatic. I would diplomatically, at this point, like to bash the Jack Russell, who has just barked right at the end of my clip. So safety energy lock number 3 is located on the middle finger. So when we hold our middle finger, it helps to stabilize our liver and gallbladder organ function energy. It helps us to trust that we believe, I trust that I'm going to kill the Jack Russell. It helps us believe in ourselves, that we make the right decisions for ourselves. It helps us trust that we are going to be okay and that we can navigate the rapids should they arise. And it helps to harmonize anger and resentment and irritability and guilt. So it helps us not to push too hard. Usually when we start having those feelings of extreme frustration and irritability, it's because we are pushing too hard and our expectations are not being met. So remember, set a goal by all means, develop a strategy by all means, and then relinquish the attachment to the fact that it has to turn out exactly the way you have it in your mind. It may turn out differently. It may turn out a whole lot better if you just allow the universe to have a bit of free reign and not be quite so controlling. So hold your middle finger. It'll help to stabilize those volatile emotions. It'll also help to stabilize some of that intense energy of the 3 and the 1 and the 6. And it will help that 9 get over its tantrums quicker, and it will help us be more decisive, because that is something that we sometimes lack when we have the 9 in the villain position. Hope you have an amazing day, and I'll speak to you again tomorrow.